Hello. Welcome back to Phoenix Wright. Abby can't hold anything.
So, for reference, right when the episode started, Abby sat up, and then her phone fell.
I just off my lap, it just slid off. Right when I finished doing the countdown, it's like, well, here we go.
This is what happens when we don't have
Luke or Jesse. We just lose it.
Yeah, we just lose it. It'd be us.
It's like we're children who were given an entire container of sugar and told, do whatever. And so we do whatever.
Just don't burn down the place.
And we're like, hey, we can do that. We can do that, Mom. We can do that, Dad.
Anyway, let's talk about murder.
All right, let's talk about murders. Yay!
I, Luke Atme, had no points of contact with the victim whatsoever. Kane Bullard decided to investigate Master Mask and simply mistook who he was. It was Mr. Bullard who wrote the blackmail letter and sent it to Ron Delight. And it was again Mr. Bullard who harbored a grudge against Mr. Delight for his betrayal. Mr. Bullard's mistake is quite excusable. The defendant truly believes he is Master Mask. But I am! And that's why Mr. Delight saw it fit to kill Kane Bullard. Truly a tragedy.
Okay, maybe that's not true, but I am Master Mask. It's fine. I mean, so the victim, Kane Bullard, blackmailed the defendant?
This is the blackmail letter found in the defendant's apartment. A handwriting test confirms that Mr. Bullard was indeed the one who wrote the letter.
What? Blackmail letter updated in the court record.
Hooray! Very well, Mr. Wright, begin your cross-examination.
So, the other part of Kane's name, Kane is like a typical name for something villainous. It could be allusion to Cain, like in the Bible.
Wow.
And Bullard could be a pun on bully or bullied.
Yeah, that's
I think
funny.
it's specifically for this little point.
Yeah, this small bit. I could see that.
So, yeah. That's the pun behind Kane Bullard's name. I didn't want to say anything that could possibly give away because all we know is that he's a dead guy that was in charge of the company. So I thought maybe once we learn a little bit more about him, it would be appropriate to tell that information.
Love the music in this game.
Oh, it's so good.
It's such a good remix of itself.
Mind if I ask you a few questions, Detective Atme?
Well, if it's just a few, I guess it's alright.
When you said that this letter was addressed to Ron Delight, I couldn't help but notice one major contradiction.
Contradiction? I don't know where a walking contradiction like you gets off saying things like that.
What an asshole.
You're one to talk.
At times like these, men are made to express themselves with their fists.
Your Honor.
Your Honor, I'd like to report an assault.
Yeah. Making a note.
Why don't you show us what you've got there, Junior?
Indeed, what time? Oh, sorry. Indeed, time to man up, Mr. Wright. Show us the contradicting evidence in the content of the blackmail letter.
Oh.
Take a good look at this newspaper clipping. It contains a picture of the tear of Emanon, the stolen jewel.
What about it?
The problem is this jewel's color.
Color. I'm not much for discussing color myself.
According to the clipping, the color of the stolen jewel was blue. However, in the blackmail letter, a totally different jewel is mentioned. I'll take that red diamond you received the other day.
Red?
Which means the red diamond described in the blackmail letter is not the tear of Emanon that Master Mask stole at all.
Objection!
And your point is, Mr. Trite. So you are trying to say that this blackmail letter was intended for someone else. That is what you're trying to say, right, Trite?
That is what you're trying to say, right, Mr. Wright? Well, what is it you're trying to say, right, Nick?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes!
This is who Kane Bullard was actually blackmailing.
Yeah.
Naturally, it was you, Detective Atme.
Do you have some sort of basis for that claim?
You have been personally involved in every single Master Moss case. And in the last case, you recovered what was stolen and received a jewel as your reward.
A jewel?
Probably the one wrapped conspicuously around your finger. That red diamond ring.
Sorry, Sunshine, can you plug your ears?
Yeah,
Okay, you're
okay.
good. You're good. Thank you.
That is the diamond referred to in the letter. Which means that Kane Bullard wrote the letter in order to blackmail you.
Ah!
So good. Order of the court. Okay.
It seems you've gone too far with your childish pranks, Mr. Trent.
Uh-oh, I don't like the way he said that.
Kane Bullard blackmailing Luke at me. Are you for real?
Yes.
Yes, I'm
Yes.
for real.
Yes, I am.
Nick, come on, stand up to him.
Then answer me this. The blackmail letter contains the following passage. If you don't want your identity revealed to the world.
Yes, it certainly does.
Kane Bullard threatened to make Luke Atme's identity public knowledge. And identity he wanted to keep a secret. So just what was that identity?
Atme killed Kane Bullard because he was afraid of his secret becoming known. What was the identity he wanted to keep secret?
This is what it all comes down to, Nick.
The identity that Luke Atme wanted to so desperately keep secret was his identity as...
Oh.
Luke Atme was a blackmailer.
Objection!
You have such a nice voice.
I can't copy it.
Too bad. That's
I know.
okay. I forgive you.
I have like the highest pitched voice out of everybody. Isn't that a little different from what you've been saying? You said that Kane Bullard was the one blackmailing Luke Atme. Are you saying that Atme was blackmailing someone else on top of that?
You have to admit, that does sound a little odd.
It's not odd. It's the only thing that makes any sense. Kane Bullard was blackmailing Luke Atme. But Ron DeLite was also being blackmailed by a certain someone. So did you start to receive blackmail letters starting after this incident?
Yes, just a few days after the Tear of Ebanon heist.
Ice.
After that, I started getting the plans in the mail. That sounds good right now. I received plans from some very kind person. Incredibly detailed plans. Detailed plans? In which case, that would mean that Ron DeLite was actually Master Mosk.
And that is what we are claiming. Someone else came up with the plans and had Mr. DeLite steal his targets for him. And that someone was none other than Luke Atme.
It'll a gasp.
Shh! Silence!
Sorry, little cigar, I spat on you.
Now I see. It's all becoming clear.
But what is?
When you were in grade school, you received the same report card every year. Careless, with the tendency to jump to conclusions. Am I wrong?
How did you...
You say that I, Luke Atme, was blackmailing Ron DeLite.
I would actually be very fascinated if we still put that on, like, report cards and shit.
Oh,
Because I could write that about so many kids.
Yeah, actually, I kind of trying to remember what my teachers wrote about me. I can't remember. But in which case, I would naturally know all about his relation to Master Mask.
Well, yes.
Ron DeLite started receiving plans from his own second crime onward, correct? Which means I learned of his identity when he committed that first crime.
Good point. You certainly could have blackmailed him otherwise. Couldn't have blackmailed him otherwise.
In that case, let's see some hot, bitter evidence. Son of a gun, you thought that, didn't you?
It was just the way you said it. It was just
Hot!
And I was
I
like,
thought
oh
it
my.
too! I thought
Oh
it too!
my!
Oh, good down!
Good down, dear.
Anyway, we gotta figure out, something. I missed it.
Gotta figure out how he figured out who.
Oh, figured out. Okay,
Master
figured out.
Moss gone first.
Figured
time.
out.
Figured out.
I think I see it.
See what?
When you were in grade school, you received the same report card every year. He gets into lots of mischief trying to be the center of attention.
What do you mean?
This newspaper clipping. It has a picture of you and Ron Delight in his guard uniform. It seems that Master Mosk didn't just disappear into thin air. He just took off his outfit and hid it in a bucket.
That sounds far too stupid to be true.
Correct.
Oh.
With tricks like that, he couldn't fool a baby, let alone an ace detective.
Ace Detective!
And that's when he figured it out, Mr. Atmay. That's when he learned that under his mask, Master Mosk was really Ron Delight.
His eye is just swallowing me.
Wasn't he supposed to be Master Mosk?
Not only that, it looks like he wasn't even an ace detective! Ace Detective!
I can't believe it. He's just some silly blackmailer.
What a fraud! Trying to pass himself off as an ace detective! Ace detective! Okay!
Ace detective!
Why, you? How dare you expose me like that? Why, I mean, I've never blackmailed anyone in my life. I'm a famous and proud ace detective. And also Master Mosk. Why can't you understand that?
He's crazy. I love him.
I'm afraid you're neither a proud thief nor an ace detective.
Ace detective!
You're a blackmailer and a murderer. That is your true identity.
Why you? How dare you just believe in responsibility? Why do something yourself when trying to make after this rebels? I say nothing to depend my genius to real yourself. Swing out to scream it. Come here and say there's nothing other grace going on. Blackmail under threats. I can wait without it. It's enough to make one laugh.
Wow! Good job! Oh, now you know. Except that was 10 times worse than Old Bag ever was. My God!
Yeah.
Holy shit! Oh, because Old Bag is in this game, isn't it? Oh shit!
Oh my gosh.
Oh, I want to see where we finally got to the real answer. That was quite a performance by Kendall.
Whew. I don't know what clicked. It was just like bam.
It's
go.
You can go. Bailiff, please prepare a cell for Mr. Atmay.
Objection.
Son of a bitch. Did you...
Don't bring me back. I'm not ready.
Do you want me to take a dough for a bit? Okay,
No, I got it.
Okay.
The hammer that strikes too fast has no time to aim.
Get that your poetry circle out of my courtroom. What do you mean? I've already prepared to deliver my sentence, and I like my gavel.
Allow me to say one thing. I will be the one to judge.
Fuck you, no. You don't get much more in your face than that.
No. It appears that your claws weren't quite sharp enough, Mr.
Oh, I brought my nail file, Nick.
It's glass.
Where do you...
It's true that you've proven a lot of things. Things like Luke Atmey was a filthy blackmailer. And that he wasn't at Lordly Taylor the night of the murder.
That's right. That's why he's the one who killed Mr. Bolt.
But there's still one thing you have yet to prove.
What's that?
Just because he wasn't at the warehouse doesn't mean he was at the murder scene. Therefore, if you can't prove that this pitiful excuse for a man was at KB security, then I don't see how a verdict can be delivered.
No way.
Can we stop the trial now, Godot? We're so close!
Some kid in the audience, I've had to pee for like 10 minutes!
Or in the court, Mr. Wright, help.
This is it. This is the final round.
You stop playing with that.
It's okay.
I got to prove that that Atmay was at Mr. Bullet's office on that night.
But, can you really prove that?
That's long enough, Mr. Tribes. I want to hear your answer.
That night, Luke Atmay was at KB Security, and the defense... I can't prove it.
Just as I thought. Piece of shit.
But, if you're more of Detective Atmay's testimony...
Objection.
Unfortunately, that's as far as you go, Mr. Trite.
But what do you mean?
I won't allow for any more testimony. That's what I mean.
What?
Have you forgotten? Luke Atme is here after we interrupted his own trial. And you have failed to prove that he committed the murder. I think it's time for this witness to return to his own trial and face his guilty verdict as mask to mask.
No.
Well now, sir lawyer, it seems that love wins out in the end after all.
I mean, if
you
you
read
read
the
the
right
right fanfiction.
Sailor Moon kicks down the door. This has nothing to do with love and justice.
I am Jet! I am the ace detective!
Ace detective.
Ace detective!
They're off sync, as well as my...
We don't like you anymore.
My verdict will verify that! Just as Ron Delight will verify that he is the true murderer. I declare that my full force of my ace detectiveness!
Ace-ness.
How dare you!
Order in the court. That's enough. Oh gosh, okay.
Sorry. I can't believe this. At this rate, Ron is...
Don't give up now, Nick. We still have tomorrow. We can look for more evidence and...
By then, it'll be too late.
Huh? Why? Stop sniffing your coffee and tell me why.
Double jeopardy. One of the basic rules of any court of law.
Now this is real, I know that for
Yep.
sure. Double jeopardy? Should a defendant be tried and found innocent in court, that defendant cannot be tried again for the same crime. This is a fundamental rule of all courts. And it applies to this witness as much as it applies to anyone else.
Mr. Atme will be found guilty in a matter of minutes. Guilty as mask to mask. Which means...
He will be innocent as far as the murder of Kane Bullard is concerned. No way! The fact that you were unable to prove Mr. Atme's guilt of that crime here means that he will never again be tried as Kane Bullard's murderer. Oh no, not sad, Nick.
Now there's nothing I can possibly do to win. Even if Ron is proclaimed to be innocent, the real killer, Luke Atme, will go free.
And with that, we will stop the episode. We will finish off case 2 next time.
Next time!